embarking on a resurrection story. Bluebirds crucified on Friday to rise in anew on Easter Monday. We'll play the intro.
Hello, ladies and gents, and welcome back to the Football Booth Podcast, episode 20, Easter Special. My name is Fennan, and John alongside me, the man who gives the monologue of all monologues. We got Mayhem. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, man. I'm doing good. Yeah, the weekend's not been as lively and as jam-packed as it would have been for the English Championship schedule. So, I've only had to put myself through the ringer once, and thankfully, we were at least convincing in the second half. So,
That's true. Yeah.
It feels like this episode is another biblical reference. It's a story of good Samaritans. From Kitching to insert Livingston defender's name here because I can't remember who scored our one.
Oh, mate, honestly, this Easter weekend has just left me in an absolute mess. Brain, mind completely scrambled. After the heartbreak that I had to endure last week with Wales, and then to add salt to the wounds was the disappointment on Easter Friday. It wasn't such a good Friday for myself and the Cardiff faithful, but thankfully we had a bit of fortune come our way earlier today and completely forgot that we were playing. Like, I'm just a mess, mate. Absolute mess, man. And of course I've got to do a football podcast, and I love doing the Football Booth with you, and I can't afford to be too negative and sound like Victor Meldrew on this platform. And so here I am, still feeling upbeat, and of course, most of all, hearing your analysis over this past weekend's football shenanigans. Of course, Celtic, it feels like you play Livingston every week now, but yeah, I don't know what. Like, I just always see Livingston away, Livingston at home. But another 3-0 win, with all goals, I believe, coming in the second half. So I can imagine it was going to be one of those games where it took a lot for Celtic to really break down Livingston in the first 45. But you have a better idea than I do, for sure. Do you want to take us through what took place, Mayhem?
Yeah, I think in summary, the was pretty accurate. It was a first half where we huffed and puffed, and we had a lot of the ball, as we consistently do when we're playing the nearly every team in the league. So no surprise, we still have the hauntings of the Tony Macaroni Arena. Even though I'm not quite sure how it comes to this, because Livingston just give you three sides of the ground, so it's basically a fucking home game. And we've done well, in recent history, but still, we go back to we had serious problems when they were first promoted, getting a win there, and it wasn't a place that we enjoyed going. It's an AstroTurf. I mean, they were talking on the game or something about Livingston have added something to the league. It'd be shame to see him go. No, fucking won't. Take David Martindale and his shitty AstroTurf pitch and his fucking spaghetti named stadium and bump him down to the Championship and relegate him never to be seen again. Right? Just go and play Arbroath every week and don't ever come back up. Right? If you can't afford to lay a grass pitch, then don't ever play in the Premiership again. It really breaks my heart that Kilmarnock are not down there with yous as well. Because in a perfect scenario, yous would be bottom, Kilmarnock could be 11th, and whatever grass playing football team was in the Championship, they'd then win the playoff, and we'd get rid of both of yous. Right? Disgusting pitches. They're not. Those kind of pitches are not fit for people to be playing PE on, let alone professional football. So no, they haven't added anything to the league, bar having an absolute bam as a manager and I mean, just absolutely no shame in the fact that every time that Celtic and Rangers come to town, they give up their home advantage by just letting us have three sides of the ground and it basically being an away day for them. And the absolute state of that pitch. So, yeah, and it's hard to get. You can see the way that like they're clipping the balls forward and the balls holding up, and
Yeah,
it's
it
just
takes that weird skid off the
it's,
surface,
it's
and you
and,
see all like the little 3G particles pop up with it. It's like surely it's like it's a bigger factor in the case of player safety in consideration of you actually using these pitches to play proper league games on. Like it
I
can't be
mean,
permitted, surely.
I was shocked to see Cameron Carter Vickers in the team. I think if we wasn't playing, them next week, then he wouldn't have been playing. And I think it was imperative that he's come back and he's been building himself. He needed 90 minutes, no matter where it was, because he's not a fan of the pitches. I was shocked to see Reo Hatate come back in, but apparently he played in the bounce game. He'd looked sharp, and he certainly did look sharp for the 60 minutes that he was here. So good to see him. I'm not at all surprised that Callum McGregor wasn't pushed for Livingston. Far better to build him up if he's got a chance to play in the derby.
Yeah.
Far better to build him up and give him that opportunity to play um, next week. So I wasn't shocked, and I was actually quite thankful that we haven't tried to rush him back, and we've just said, look, we'll be fine. Awata will be fine to come in and play. It's Livingston, and that was it. Yeah, we had a lot of the ball. Nicholas Kuhn had another good performance. On the
Good,
right,
good.
cutting in from the left. Trying to be very direct. Maeda back to his normal tricks. I mean, his left foot is only good for standing on. The amount of times that he got half a yard against his defender and then needed his left foot and stuck it into the stand. There's absolutely no delivery on the guy. Um, and that was it. There was no real sort of breakthrough, big opportunity. We should have had a penalty in the first half. I mean, how it isn't given is, just back to talking about VAR.
Yeah, I was gonna say this becomes like an every week topic, doesn't it?
Just, it's just utter confusion as to what they're seeing. When you can understand it at the pace of the game. I can understand, although look, I don't think the ref had a particularly good game. I can understand why he wouldn't have seen it. The angle he was at, he maybe thought that Kyogo was looking for it, and that's fair enough. But once you slow it down, you look at all the angles. He should have been asked to go to the monitor. Should have been asked to review it, and that was the opinion of absolutely everybody, bar Chris Boyd. Shocked. Um, I mean, I don't even get why this fucking Lego brick munching ball bag commentates on our game, or is a pundit on our game. Why? Just fuck off, mate. No one wants you here. Clearly, you don't want to be here because you can't even be impartial. So fuck off.
Good
Away
thing
you
he,
go.
good thing he's not the primary commentator because it would be like Rangers FC, 1-0
It's,
Celtic.
it's a fucking absolute ball bag. So we should have had a penalty. But there wasn't a lot of goal math action, and you was worrying about that a little bit. But second half came around, and there's a almighty scramble in the box. It's pinging off everywhere, and Hatate from point blank range hits it. Fantastic save from the keeper, who in the second half did pull out some really good saves. And the ball just hits the defender and trickles over the line, and we're 1-0 up. And once we got 1-0 up, there was a big exhale, and everybody just kind of, there was a sigh of relief collectively around the stadium because Livingston, their big man up top had, hassled Scales a bit, but Joe Hart probably could have had the afternoon off and we'd have been okay. So they weren't an attacking force as such. So we got the first goal. That allowed us to relax and make a few changes. Hatate come off, Pablo Bernardo come on, and only him and Matt O'Reilly combined beautifully. A little 1-2 on the edge of the box, and then from the edge of the box, it's an arrowing shot into the far corner. 2-0 up. Now we've got the comfort. That 2-0 comfort zone, and we were seeing the game out, and then we put together another good move where the ball gets cut across against the box. Matt O'Reilly hits it straight at the keeper this time. Probably the one thing the keeper done wrong all game. God love him. The ball kind of just slips through him and goes in, and in the end we win 3-0. And the the overall landscape of the game reflects what it was, because in all honesty it was a comfortable game that we saw out from start to finish. With Reo looking pretty sharp, I thought Awata played well. Cameron Carter Vickers was cool, calm and collected at the back. I thought Kyogo made some good runs. He obviously wants to be getting on the score sheet and doing that. Like I said, Kuhn I thought played well. Maeda just he has these days, and I think we've just got to learn to deal with it. He will just at times produce a 3 out of 10 performance.
But as an athlete, though, 10 out of 10.
He'll close down and he'll press and he'll, but ultimately from a winger, you're looking for more, and that just wasn't his day. O'Reilly, I thought was decent enough. Probably one of his better games since January. Obviously
got on the score sheet as well.
Yeah, was linking up well with Nicholas Kuhn and Reo Hatate and Paolo Bernardo when he come on. So yeah, some good things there. Hopefully, Callum recovers enough to be fit for next week, because ultimately, next week is huge. Not just because it's a derby, but if it's a derby that if they win, they'll go top by 2 points, with a game in hand. Ultimately, just stretch it to 5, which then, even if we were to go and beat them at home, it means we're relying on other people to give us an opportunity. Whereas at the moment, all we have to do now is win our games. It'll be a tough ask. Obviously, they'll be right up for it. There's no away fans for the remaining 2, and then we've heard the announcement that I think it's 5% will be awarded to each club next season for away fans, which I think is fine. No, it's absolutely fine. I think it averages that we get like 2,500 and they'll get 3,000 fans.
Okay.
And that's grand. It's like I think it's pretty much like a European away attendance. It's grand. So not back to the the 7,000-8,000 of old, but it was never going to go back to that. And I think this is a happy medium to say, right?
Yeah, it seems like an okay compromise there.
They'll see it as a win, and that's what they wanted. They wanted to go back to their little fans and say, "We got 3,000, and they only got 2,500. We won." Their little ones up, but
Celtic Park has a bigger capacity though.
But that's how they'll see it. I mean, it's the little things.
Just give them the small wins there in that sense.
Just fucking stick them behind the pole. Fuck them.
Yeah.
Once we average out views of poles that we're not behind, it's the same, mate. Don't worry.
With a few more poles there, mate.
So, yeah, look, next week is huge. Obviously, we've gone there and we've won already this season. We've played them twice and beat them. The all-conquering Philip Clement side has managed to lose to us as well. Not just we Michael Bill's team. Philip Clement's Globetrotters come to Celtic Park and didn't get the job done. So yeah, it'll be hostile as always. Began into their backyard, into the cesspit. There'll be all kinds of lovely chants floating around. But ultimately, that's what we've got to go and deal with. A draw isn't the end of the world, because it still then rolls over to the game at our place to close down that gap. But it's a game that we can't afford to lose, and unfortunately, if we lose it, that could be our title gone.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's probably the best way you could have prepared for this game. Obviously, coming away with 3 points, comfortable result against Livingston. Returning players, like you said, Carter Vickers, Reo Hatate, also came away unscathed from playing on a 3G pitch in their first game back, and is set you up in probably the best way possible for next week's decisive game against Rangers. Of course, Rangers came away with a 3-1 result of their own against Hibs. But I mean, overall, what is your mind telling you at the moment going into this game?
Probably that we will have to play far better in this game than we have done for a while. We would need to repeat, the likes of the performance that got us the win at home, or even try and emulate some of those earlier, season performances like against Atletico Madrid at home and Feyenoord at home, that kind of level, which we have in the team because it was obviously those players that produced it. It would need to be that kind of level of performance. I think we've got a good balance. I think Maeda knows that role really, really well in the derby, and tracking, James Tavernier back and stopping him hitting those early balls and going beyond him. It'll be Nicholas Kuhn's first introduction into the derby. So it's always interesting to see, what he makes of it, or what they make of it. Obviously, with Adam Eder on the bench, Kyogo I think will probably get the nod because he's been in decent form. But it'll be his first taste as well, so he may play a part from the bench. And I'm hoping that we have a midfield of Callum McGregor, Reo Hatate, and Matt O'Reilly for at least 60 to 65 minutes. And then if needs be, and Callum needs to come off for a watter, and O'Reilly things need to be chopped and changed, and Hatate needs to come off, then and fair dues. But I think we pretty much know the back four. It's going to be Johnston, it's going to be Cameron Carter Vickers, Liam Scales, and Greg Taylor. And Liam Scales has, in the last 2 times we've played them, has been fantastic and really risen to the occasion. So I hope that he does that again. In these games, you need your keepers to have big moments as well and make saves. So no doubt at some point we'll need Joe Hart to perform for us. It would be stupid to say it at their place with the passion that we're running through that they won't have good spells. So we'll have to defend properly. Yesterday was a clean sheet, which is our first one for 7 matches. So that gives us a bit of impetus back to the defence to know that they can keep clean sheets, they can battle. Puts us in as good a stead as we could coming off of that result. But I think that the performance levels need to go up. And I think I've said before that Rangers won't do what I think would be our biggest problem. If you look at, say, we'll obviously speak about it later, but if you look at how Arsenal set up against Man City and the way that they counter-attacked against them, if Rangers were to do something like that, I think that we would really struggle, and they could catch us, and it could be... But they won't do that. They'll come out and they'll play on the front foot, and they'll play with players like Todd Cantwell that runs around a lot and looks like he's doing, but really he doesn't stick to his role. And Callum McGregor pulls him about the place and gives him a fucking show.
Yeah.
So, they'll look to go on the front foot, they'll look to be pressed, and they'll look to impose themselves, and that kind of style allows us to play our best football. We've seen it against Atletico Madrid, we've seen it against the 2 games against Rangers, we've seen it against Feyenoord. When teams come out and allow us to play, that's where we shine. We struggle more to break down that defensive block that so many teams obviously come to Celtic Park or even at home will play against us. So the blueprint is there for us to be able to go and put in a real good performance. And look, if we do, then again, it's all in our hands. If we win that, then we move on. I think there's one more game, and then the split, and then that's it. This is it. It's the final 5 games.
Yeah, that's when it's crunch time, and every performance matters.
Yeah,
where the levels can't afford to drop in any of those games whatsoever.
Well, we're here now, really. It's after Livingston game, it's really draw a line under it and saying, right, we're now looking at 7 games to the end of the season. Really, we need to win them all. Win them all, we're champions. It's that simple.
Yeah. Best way you could pretty much put it.
So, it's in our hands. Hopefully, I said a draw isn't a disaster because it's still in our hands, but hopefully, as long as we come out on Sunday with it still in our hands,
Yeah.
then I think we've done absolutely fine. Whisper it quietly as well. There is the chance of a whitewash. Hasn't been done for a very long time.
It hasn't.
There
It
is a
hasn't.
chance for a wee
We
whitewash.
can't. Yeah, exactly. We can't say it too loud because, of course, if it goes in the way we don't want it to go, then it'll definitely make for a very intriguing episode next week, which I touch wood furiously will not be the case. But I think that, ultimately, yeah, if hypothetically you come away from a point with a point from Ibrox, then the pressure's all on them, essentially.
Well, that will mean that it's the same conundrum for both. Win every game from here, and you're champions. If we draw, then it's still the same conundrum, but it slightly tilts because they have to come to our place, and again there'll be no away fans. It'll be very charged. It'll be very ramped up, and the thing that does bring me confidence is that we will hear in this week as they build up. They'll be talking about it being the biggest derby there's been in such a time. Kenny Miller with his scrawny little rat face will be on Sky Sports News somewhere saying about how big a game it is, and they'll all be bigging it up. And this Rangers team are absolutely superb at fucking up big games, Europa League finals, games against us. They're really really good at fucking them up.
Yeah.
So that gives me a wee bit of confidence, because once the pressure starts to ramp, there's serial losers like James Tavernier, Todd Cantwell, Ryan Jack, fucking Connor Goldson, that just look across the city and see us lifting treble after treble, trophy after trophy, and they've got their, oh look, we won our one title, and we've got our Scottish Cup. They're serial losers, these guys. Right? What they do best is lose. So will it be different with Philip Clement? Maybe, but ultimately it's very difficult to change, a team's, the inside, the makeup of a team. It's real DNA of this side. Their DNA before Philip Clement come along was beating everybody bar us, and the DNA so far under Philip Clement is beating everybody bar us.
Yeah. Let's hope that continues to live rent free.
Oh, 100% it will, mate. It will 100% be. They have beaten everybody. They've gone and got great results against Benfica away from home, then they fucked up at home.
They
They've,
did, yeah.
they've beaten the Aberdeens, and they've beaten the Hearts and the Hibs, and they've done it. And the fans are on side. But there's one team that they haven't beat.
And it's the one that matters most.
So, and look, football's a fickle game. We could be sitting here in a week's time, and it could hurt like fuck, and they could have finally done that. But it does give me a wee bit of confidence that normally, when push comes to shove, when it's crunch time, when it's time to do the real talking, Celtic do it on the pitch, and Rangers players normally do it in stupid little Instagram posts. So, and James Tavernier always comes out with a nice little apology in his post-match press conference, and the manager's talking about the referee. No doubt they'll be doing that again. So, roll on Sunday, big game. But I am cautiously optimistic, only in the fact that these guys don't tend to beat us.
Yeah.
In recent history, so we'll see. But no doubt our levels will have to improve that from what they have done for the last couple of weeks. But again, looking over the season, they have done every time we've played them. So, whatever I think of Brendan Rodgers, he certainly knows this game. He knows how to beat Philip Clement. He's already done it. He'll have the players fully focused and knowing what they need to do. And Carter Vickers back is huge. Hatate back is huge, and hopefully Callum will be in there to lead the boys, and because he's a massive part of that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And if we can get that midfield, if we can get Callum, Hatate, O'Reilly, I think it's huge. It's massive. And having that midfield, we haven't had it for so long because of Reo's injuries and our Callum's injuries. If we can get that, that three is by far and away the best midfield in the league.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
and if we can get them on for 65, 70 minutes or interlinking, I think we'll create some real good opportunities. And Kyogo he's a Hun slayer. That's what he does. Scores big goals against these guys, even when he's absolutely dog out of form. Right? I mean, look at him when he was at home. Just comes out second half, cuts on his left foot, bangs it in the top corner. Fucking superstar Jack Butland. They were basically saying that they were going to build a statue for this cunt, right? And he's the best thing ever. And Kyogo sticks in the top
England's
corner.
number one, yeah.
So it's big, but I'm optimistic only on the fact that in previous times it's tended to lean our way.
Absolutely. And that's definitely a game that I'll be sure not to miss. I'll have that on my phone whilst I'm playing darts, because I do believe it will probably be an early kickoff as well, as it tends to be.
Yeah, 12 o'clock, I think.
Yeah. So yeah, that'll be on my mobile device as we play our sets of darts. But yeah, honestly, when it comes to these games, that of course there's always that anticipation of fear, excitement, optimism. But it feels like this has probably been the most that you felt confident in quite a long time. I know we've spoken previously this year when you've had that strong sense of anxiety as to whether or not the boys will show up for that fixture. But
look, that's still there. Of course, it is.
Yeah.
Because we have been so inconsistent this season. And maybe it's the fact of we've had the international break, so we haven't had to put ourselves through 3 games running up to this. We had the break and we've only had Livingston, and that was fairly comfortable. And now we're going into this, so we've had that break to reset and recharge and kind of come in here and hopefully attack it full steam. But there is still that worry that Celtic have been incredibly inconsistent this season. But yeah, I'm hoping that we get the best version of ourselves, and I think our best version beats their best version.
Oh, all the way, 100%. And that's not me being biased. It's honestly, you compare the two on paper, and I'm sure Celtic will get the vote over Rangers. Well, it depends on the opinions you get off certain people. But no, in my opinion, yeah, that's what I agree with. That Celtic have the better team on paper. But talking of international break, I thought we could briefly cover over what took place during the internationals. I mean, Scotland, of course, got the job done. You got the job done. You got your flights booked to Germany. You've got your group. Wasn't the case with Wales. We still had two obstacles in our way in the form of Finland, who we comfortably beat by 4-1, and then came the final clash between Poland at the Cardiff City Stadium, and the outcome was as harsh as it could have ever been.
Yeah, that was sickening to watch. As a biased neutral, I think it's fair to say, definitely wanted Wales to win.
Of course.
But obviously didn't have the same intensity or passion and I always hate this. It's not. There's no caveat to this. This doesn't make it any better. It doesn't feel any better, because people always say it about Celtic Park on European nights and that. But the atmosphere was unbelievable. Like, the crowd couldn't have done any more. How it must have been spine tingling for those players. The renditions of the national anthem. The atmosphere, the intensity. I think I imagine a lot of those fans, even if you'd have won, wouldn't have even gone out. They'd have just gone home to bed. They'd have been that fucking shattered from the energy that they'd have put into the match.
Oh, 100%.
It was the absolutely spine tingling stuff. Especially the one before the penalty shootout. It was incredible.
Oh yeah, right before the shootout, unbelievable. And you know what? Props to the Polish fans as well, who really did show up in numbers and were loud.
Yeah.
They were they're probably the best set of fans we've ever had at the Cardiff City Stadium.
Yeah, obviously well supported, very passionate lot. I think what helps with Poland is that they have quite healthy following that would call the UK home. So perhaps they wasn't having to travel the distance from. I'm sure plenty of them did from Warsaw and surrounding.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of them were able to just catch the train up from Paddington. That lovely journey we've done plenty of
Oh yes,
times.
so yes.
Um,
Bristol
and
Parkway, Reading, yeah.
um, and make their way. But yeah, they were really good. Really, really played their part in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And I think the sore bit for Rob Page and his boys has got to be that Danny Ward in net hasn't had to make a fucking save, hasn't
All
been put in
game.
a
All yeah,
position.
throughout that 120-minute match, he wasn't really tested
Yeah,
throughout that 100%. And you know what? And I don't think a lot of the Welsh fans have really got to really analyse the entire game itself. I thought the game was fantastic, where it
yeah,
was a proper game of chess, where we really had to construct our way of breaking down the opposition's defence, and both of us stood tall. I think Wales had the better number of chances. We had Davis's goal ruled out by offside by an
yeah,
arm's fraction,
yeah.
and of course, I mean, by all means, yeah, the neighbours did hear about it when that ball hit the back of the net, but was quickly died out after seeing the flag go up. But that's what I mean. It was one of those games where it was two really strong sides that really wanted it,
I
and
think the pivotal moment for me, Wales were in the ascendancy. They made the attacking change. Dan James come on to attack the right back that had been
yeah, and it was it,
struggling.
it was Connor Roberts when he went off
Yeah,
injured. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's massive. That Dan James has to go to right back.
yeah,
He doesn't know those patterns on how to get forward. At times, he's bursting forward and leaving gaps, and people are having to shuffle over. I think now, um, I don't pretend to know the entirety of the Welsh team, but when the commentators were suggesting that Jones could go to right back and potentially they could bring. I think there was someone on the bench that they could bring on in terms of midfield. I think that probably sets Wales up to be in a better position to win it in the 90 or extra time, because Dan James I mean, he obviously goes on to miss the penalty, which is disappointing, but his pace is electric and he's direct. I don't think much of him as a football player, in all truth,
mm.
but he has that. He has that Days and Maeda effect. He's probably a wee bit better than Maeda, but he has that in the
Yeah,
fact that he's
yeah, absolutely.
incredibly
Yeah,
direct, lacking in other areas. But if the boy wasn't, then he wouldn't have left United and gone to Leeds. He would be at United. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
um, he's lacking in certain elements, but I certainly thought that would have been a
That was
better.
definitely a killing point of the game. Absolutely. And I mean, of course, I've got my opinions on Dan James as well. I used to dub him the Welsh Theo Walcott because all he was pace and no end product. But I think based off of the form that he's managed to produce as of late for Leeds United, I think it was, yeah, like I said, it was the deciding factor. I really thought Rob Page would have moved Nico out to the right, he would have moved Ben Davis out to the left, and then would have had Meppen and Rodon basically go to a back four essentially, and then he'd have David Brooks who came on as well. He would be the one out to sit in front of like Ampadu and what's his name, Jordan James, and then Dan James going down one flank,
That's
Harry
it.
down
Right,
the
Jordan
other,
James,
Harry
not
down the other flank, and then Kiefer up top. And yeah, no, it was. But like I said, I think, and this is where I'm gonna get a bit annoyed as well because, of course, the bandwagon of the Page Out Brigade was out in force all over social media, and I'm so I don't know. I'm so reluctant to really now have a say on whether or not Rob Page is the right man to take us forward.
but
It's the
let,
same
let,
with Errol Bullet as well.
let me talk as a neutral
Yeah,
from Wales' perspective. Wales over the last 8, 8-ish, 10-ish years, they have had a fucking superstar to lean on. So in these moments when shit was tough, Aaron Ramsey's picking the ball up and creating something. Gareth Bale's whacking a free kick in from 20. They have had this ace card. They don't have that now.
No.
And to dispatch of teams like Finland, who are no mugs, 4-1, under real scrutiny, real pressure, and if not, and again, if my granny had balls, she'd be my granddad. But if not for the length of, the width of a fucking arm, they win the game 1-0 in 90 minutes. And that at looping header, if Chesney just loses the flight of that Kiefer puts on it, then they win. There was no. I think he got the game plan spot on. Lewandowski did
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah,
None of
absolutely.
those Polish boys were really did anything. There was that moment. I think it was an extra time. It was in the end of the 90 where like their number 6 hit an absolute bullet
Oh,
from the edge of the box.
Frankowski, yeah.
I thought that was Nesson in the top corner.
Yeah, no, don't get it. My heart was out my arsehole at that point. But
But
yeah, yeah, go on.
barring that, he's and it's hard to account for those moments in games. In terms of the game plan, the setup, I think the only thing he gets wrong is could he have shifted someone else to right back? Like you said, could he have gone to a back four? Could he have shifted someone else right back to allow Wales to still have that attacking force? But I think Harry Wilson was fantastic. I thought when Brooks come on, he was decent. I don't know why he come off, whether he had a knock or something.
Yeah, that
Ethan
was
Amp,
that was a weird change. That was, yeah, because he brought him on and then brought him off right before the shootout. Didn't
yeah.
didn't make sense that, but
and then Broadhead didn't take a penalty, did he?
Broadhead didn't take a penalty.
So you
So
brung
again,
him on.
yeah, just to basically stand there and hold hands with everyone else. So
Strange, but
yeah, very bizarre.
But Ethan Ampadu, I thought, had a really good game. Really good on that sweeper role and covering. I thought Ben Davis was really really good. Rodon, who again he's been a superstar for Leeds this season. I thought he was fantastic, and you just can hold your head high. Poland are absolutely no mugs.
No,
They're
absolutely not.
perhaps not the force that they once were. When they had the Blashikovskis and people like that running through their team. But in Lewandowski, they have a genuine world class player,
They have
and
that ace, as you
yeah,
mentioned. Yeah,
and he could do nothing in the game, and unfortunately, it's been, like you said, decided in the cruelest of ways. And Dan James is the unfortunate party to miss. And I did, as he walked up, I just thought, oh God, no. And I don't know why, but I just
yeah, I
thought,
know there was a feeling
oh,
about it, and I think especially if you're a Cardiff fan watching that, we're all in the back of our mind going, "Go figure, it's going to be the Jack that misses this penalty." But it really was. It wasn't a bad penalty. I mean, he gets it on target. He hits it hard to the right of Chesney, and Chesney goes the right way. And I tell you what, like
that's
Wojciech,
that's their other trump card as well, though, isn't it? They've got Lewandowski and they've got
that
Szczesny.
guy is hands down one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the world. That guy was just I mean, the header he keeps up from Kiefer Moore. How he manages to get across and claw that out. I honestly thought it hit the bar initially, but we played Poland before in Cardiff, and he's honestly he's like the Great Wall of Poland. He really is. He's a fucking unit. He's intelligent as well, where he even forces like wingers to force a decision into playing a ball in, back post, front post. Are they going to go challenging them? Like he just picks up on certain player traits as well, and he just acts like 2 steps ahead of them.
Yeah, I could see, you could see the emotional intelligence, the way that he was laughing and joking with Danny Ward going up,
Yeah,
and
exactly. Yeah, it's all
I'm like,
mind games.
in,
Yeah.
in my head, I'm like, no, don't be laughing, Danny. Just tell him to fuck off, push him away, like don't. And yeah, it was like I said, it was gut wrenching because of it, as you're like I said, as a bias neutral, as you're lining up, all I have in my head is Serbia. Obviously, when we were in the same
Yeah, of
position,
course. Yeah, absolutely.
and the I remember like sitting on sitting on the chair watching the game and watching the Serbia penalties, and then I couldn't watch the Scotland penalty. I was burying my head into my fiance, and then she'd say, that they would take it, and she would say they scored, and I'd be like, yes. I wasn't even celebrating in real time. And thankfully, I got to celebrate because obviously David Marshall saved it, so it wasn't my
Yeah,
head was
yeah,
buried.
yeah.
But just to know, to think China, like, compared to, like, how would you have felt if that had gone wrong? And we've Scotland have had in the past Slovakia, and Scotland are fantastic at doing shit in playoffs. Obviously, last time we had Ukraine that we spectacularly fucked up, and thankfully, you did the business, and away you went to the World Cup. So it's got him, but no, like, as a neutral, I think Rob Page, one, he got you to the World Cup. Two, he got you within a penalty shootout at the Euros. I think he's more than earned himself a shot to go for the World Cup.
Yeah, absolutely. And the fact is, like, I mean, he's taken us to two major competitions back to back. Like, this would have been number 3, and no Welsh manager has ever done that. And so the fact that there's honestly the hate and the abuse that Rob Page got after that night was
Yeah,
just honestly, I think we've been spoilt as Welsh fans in the past 8 to 10 years.
I think a lot of it comes from, if you look at, I think it's been a knock-on effect. If you look at, what happened at the World Cup, and I think anyone with a Welsh affinity will admit that you didn't perform as you would have liked in that competition, but you were fucking there, right? I'd give my left arm, leave my right one in case you ever break out of Anya, but I'd give my left one
I'm leaving that in. Yeah.
give my left arm to go to a World Cup. We only seem to qualify for European Championships, and you've had a magical time. And yes, like I said, you've been littered with superstars, and you've had Aaron Ramsey and Gareth Bale, and they've really lit up and inspired. But you look at the Euros, where did you get to the quarterfinals? Robson Kanu, special moments.
Yeah, to the semis. Yeah, beating the
semis.
the favourites of the competition at the time.
Yeah, absolutely magical. And I think, like you said, you probably a wee bit spoiled in the fact that you was expected to dispatch Poland, and that was probably built a lot off how easily you dispatched Finland, and you've come up short, which is sickening. Because I did really want to have on this episode, there's like a wee group predictor, and we could have gone through.
I know.
All the groups.
I know.
I don't really want to do that now. Especially when I look at Group A, and I look at Hungary, and I look at Switzerland, and I look at Germany. I think we just got beat by Northern Ireland.
Oh yeah, I do remember that. Yeah, Conor Bradley scoring the winner, wasn't it?
Yeah. 1-0 to Northern Ireland. Look, and as a caveat, fair play to Northern Ireland. I mean, their fans were partying like they had literally won the European Championships. So, I mean, if that's what they get on like in a friendly, I'm sure they'd be fantastic at a major competition.
They just got to get to one first.
Yeah. But... Sadly, they're not there. So party on, boys. Well done. But again, and I think that we're probably in the same boat. But I probably lean more to the harsher side with Steve Clarke, and I just think that he's done fantastic. Look, he's broken the hoodoo. He got us, to the European Championship 4 years ago. We missed out on the World Cup, and then we've gone ahead and qualified in good time. With wins against Spain. I think he's peaked. I think. And maybe again, be careful what you wish for and all this crap. And maybe it is.
I think that's the big factor of when it comes to not wanting a manager at the helm. Like, if we were to hypothetically not keep Page on, who's going to step up? Like, I hear Steve Cooper's name being thrown about all the time. Fuck that. Hey guys, no thanks.
Yeah,
Rob Edwards from Luton, maybe, but again, it's always be careful what you wish for. And
I can't see him leaving Luton.
Well, this is it. But I'm thinking, again, you've got to be realistic. You've got to understand the pool that you have around you. If Rob Page goes, who's going to step up? And it's the same. It's the same with Errol Bullitt as well. Like I said, this was going to transition over to Cardiff because again, the Errol Bullitt out brigade was in full force Friday after we lost to Sunderland. Don't get me wrong, we were shit against Sunderland. Absolutely awful. One of the worst performances I've seen from Cardiff all year. Absolutely awful performance. And I think the players are to blame for it, for underhitting passes, not being able to be direct and really execute any attacks going forward. We were utterly awful. And to perform like that against a side who I think have gone winless 6 games prior to playing us, and to give away a ball so easily and then chop down Joby Bellerman in the box to give him a penalty, which was always going to get given. I don't know why people are even challenging that case. Like, Gutas has given the ball to Bellingham, he's raced through down on goal and he's been shoved down. Of course it could be given. And the second goal is just, again, poor defensive man management, and again, back post, bang, 2-0. And the games were completely depleted at that point. But again, it goes back to the problems with the manager. The board haven't come out and announced any contract talks with Errol Bullitt. I'm hearing speculation that there's a divide between Vincent Tan and Mehmet Dalman. Dalman wants him to stay on because he feels that he can continue to build some foundations and add some longevity to the club, which I feel is the most important thing this club needs right now. We can't be going through this horrendous cycle every 12 to 18 months where we just get a new manager in, where they have a different philosophy, and again, it's bringing in a whole new group of players that adapt to that philosophy and can perform well to it. Errol Bullitt's not there yet. He's got it in some areas, but then in others, not so much. Like, I think our attack is fucking terrible at the moment, bar the likes of O'Dowda, Colwill. Like, that's what I mean. Like, there's not really any big names there, which sort of goes to show, like, despite where we are in the table, fans are always calling out for this Pep Guardiola-esque champagne style of football. And it's just... it just goes to show like how fans could just be so narrow-minded and fickle about it. I mean, yes, I know we did play shit. It was a poor result, and it's ultimately pretty much put us out of the race for the playoffs. Mathematically, it's still realistic, but whether we do it, like
the fact that, and this is why football fans are incredibly fickle. The fact that this season you're talking about playoffs rather than talking about a fucking relegation party and going on a League One tour, right? It's monumental progress, right? Look, last couple of weeks ago, horrendous. Really tough, and of course they're going to be carrying that. But this is a man that's broken the hoodoo and beaten Swansea.
Yeah.
Dispatched the Bristol as you should. Yeah, I mean,
we really should. They're shite.
Not a real team. Bristol fucking jumped onto the map fucking 2 years ago, whatever, when the Black Lives Matters activists pushed a fucking statue in the river. Before that, who knew where Bristol was? I tell you who. People from Bristol, no one else. So, done the business there. Had, a lot of good results. Look, you definitely your season was, probably very heavily tilted towards the start, and it's filtered off. But they're scattered in there. You beat Ipswich 3 weeks ago. This is a team that, as we went into today, were top of the Championship. Mm-hmm. So they're Sunderland. I haven't seen the game or didn't see the highlights, but while that may have been a horrendous performance, you've had some really good results. Now, I know sprinkled in there is the caveat to say that the performances haven't been what they were, but they're building blocks. Aaron Ramsey was always going to be a question of how many games could he play, and he was probably mismanaged in the first half of the season, and that's had such a detrimental effect to the second half of the season. Who's to say next season, if you put Bullitt in and you allow him to bring in a few more players that suit his philosophy, and he's allowed to go out and pick a few more people up, get a striker in that, I don't know, this is a crazy talk, and score goals, then who's to say that next year, you aren't right on that cusp and you're not a
Yeah.
Preston or a Coventry where they are now, but you swap and you get it wrong, then you're back, with the fears of a League One tour.
Absolutely, and that's the problem with some fans. Again, it's just it must be a generation thing where they've grown up with all these stupid fan channels where you got AFTV calling out, asking Arsene Wenger and Emery and all that, all that nonsense that you see on YouTube nowadays and
Well,
TikTok or whatever.
you get him. These boys that are now 18, 19, 20, and really into the football and going every week and travelling home and away, when they were younger, when they were getting into it, they were probably seeing Cardiff in the Premier League. They were probably seeing
Yeah.
Cardiff in playoffs, every year battling. So in their minds, as they've grown up, that's where they think Cardiff should be. And at the moment, unfortunately, the truth of it is they're not there at the moment. Someone that's a little bit older will obviously remember the days of Ninian Park and remember the journey, and they'll understand that, look, those times were fantastic, but we don't want to go back to those times. And we've progressed this season closer, back to the Premier League times, and that's the important, to keep that trajectory, because the Championship is an incredibly tough league, which we see week in, week out, with shocking results. And you would have bet you bet your bottom dollar that fucking Leicester are going to turn up and smash this person, like, I don't know, Bristol City, and it all goes wrong.
Beating
So
Bristol City isn't for everyone, evidently.
it isn't indeed. So I think for everyone, it's to be careful what you wish for, whether it's you want Page at, Bullet at, or Steve Clark. You have to be careful. Um, I'm happy enough to take the risk and bin Steve Clark and see what
Yeah.
see what comes around the corner.
Like you said, he's peaked.
I think he has. I think for Scotland, it's the right time to move on. If we're looking to get the best out of our team, having Andy Robertson as a wing back, I don't think it works. We've got McTominay that's really developed on. Can we excite someone like Harvey Barnes to come over, and that kind of that kind of mold? Can we do that? It's fine. Stay with him through the tournament. Of course, you're not going to swap, but also for Steve Clark. Right, Steve Clark has gone and got Scotland to two major competitions, which no one had done for the best part of my life.
Yeah.
So his stock has got to be as high as it could possibly be. So you know, where does he go after? Surely he has the ability to probably, I would say, go and find himself a top end championship team, if not a Premier League team. So, what do you want to do, Steve? You've obviously done very well in Scotland with Kilmarnock. You've moved to the national team. Do you want to go back to Scotland? I doubt it. You've said a lot of things about why you've been manager of Scotland, about the west of Scotland, and that the nonsense, and how happy he is that Chelsea come and got him, and his children don't know about any of the shit that happens in Scotland. So I doubt he wants to go back to Scotland. So okay, you probably want to go back to England. You know,
I think he's managed to really build a good stepping stone for himself with taking
yeah.
Scotland to the Euros. And like you said, like if he's at the peak of his powers right now, if he gets a good opportunity to go to, like you said, a top end championship club or a lower table prem side, then yeah, without a doubt, like, I'm pretty confident that he would bite at that opportunity. But
Yeah, I'm thinking of like people like Borough, who haven't had a overly great season. Michael Carrick is obviously really highly thought of, but if that job was to become available, would that tempt him? Um, in that kind of ilk, I think if he wants a good job, the time to go is now. It's the same with why we're fascinating around this international piece. It's the same with Southgate as well. You know, no matter what you think of Southgate, what he's done at England, in a final, semi-finals, I think he's been in charge for that. This will be his fourth tournament, I think. It
third
may
or
even be
fourth
more.
tournament. So because he was what was it? It was the Euros in 2018. I think that was his first major competition.
No, it was the World Cup in 2018, wasn't it?
Was it World Cup in 2018?
Yeah,
Oh,
World
okay.
Cup. No,
No, it was World Cup. It was World Cup. Euro 2016. Yeah, it was the World Cup. I
no.
don't. All right. Well, we think he. Well, yes, he's
But yeah, no, it would have been with the World Cup in 2018, because then it would have been the Euro, would have been the champions 2020,
Yep. And then the World Cup
and then
22. Okay, so yeah,
yeah,
he's had. Yeah,
well, this would be his
this will be
fourth,
his fourth.
and he's performed amicably. Dan Ash would go in, obviously leaving Newcastle and going to United. He has a very good relationship with him, and that's the rumours. Southgate to United.
United. Yeah, no, I've seen those as well, and I mean, again, that could be a crucial turning point in the summer if he was to if he doesn't win the Euros and United choose to get rid of Ten Hag. I think he'll jump at that opportunity and go to United.
I think if he wins the Euros, he decides that he's completed it with England anyway, and he leaves. I don't think
Yeah,
he
I think
stays.
I think either way he moves on, perhaps, and I don't see United keeping Ten Hag around.
I think it's going to be tough because of the the season that they've had. Not so much for league position, because they're not in an awful
They're
place, but
really
it's
not. No.
just the level of performance and how scarily poor they can be. You only have to look at Brentford a couple of nights ago to understand that they have it in them to be incredibly shit.
Yeah.
But then again, pause and you swap back to the Liverpool game a few weeks ago, which I don't think they played fantastically well in, and that'll piss a load of people off. But I think Liverpool should have been out of sight. They hung on and they dug in certain places and showed good spirit and good character, which they have done. Some of the players didn't. Rashford, um, but they've had that sort of determination, and I don't think that's not enough. You know what I mean? So I wouldn't be surprised if they were to part ways with Ten Hag at the end of the season. Obviously, they have an FA Cup, but we know history tells us with Louis van Gaal that winning the FA Cup isn't enough to save you. Or getting to the FA Cup final. I think he won it. I don't know. I can't remember, but that isn't enough to save you. So, they have an FA Cup final. They're obviously chasing some version of European football. And I think what could happen, unfortunately, because I really like the manager, but I can see United sacking Ten Hag, them hiring whoever, Southgate, whether he goes there or not. I think he will leave England after this tournament.
Yeah.
I said 4 tournaments. I think he will understand that he needs to go and find something else, whether he goes to United or not. And I can see if Newcastle don't turn it on and get some version of European football, the Saudis being pissed off at Eddie Howe, sacking him, and he could find himself England manager.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of Newcastle, they had an interesting result over the weekend. Obviously, we brushed over it before we went live, and
What a game!
yeah, yeah, to say the least, it was 3-1 down to West Ham, and then 3 goals in the last, what was it, 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. Went and
Yeah,
scored 3.
something like that.
Unbelievable turnaround.
I mean, the metaphorical fuck up child that is Calvin Phillips at the moment.
Oh my god. There's a small part of me that really feels for that boy right now.
Giving him a route back into the game. I mean, I don't know what Eddie Howe is doing in training or what he's feeding these boys or what the fuck they're drinking, up in Toontown, but dropping like flies, and some of them are freak injuries. Livramento, just goes off, but Lascelles off as well. Almiron played about 3 minutes and had to come off. Gordon was holding his hamstring. Fabian Schär was holding his hamstring. and somehow they won the game.
I don't know, yeah, I think Anthony Gordon, I mean, who saw red right in.
Yeah, because he kicked the ball away.
Yeah, like, again, stupid sending off. But, yeah, no, again, I don't know how this somewhat injury crisis has come about because it feels, like you said, they're dropping like flies at the moment. And that's going to be a crucial part as to whether or not they do achieve any European football.
Well, I think they're in action again tomorrow. I think they're back in action tomorrow, but they'll be without Trippier, without Pope.
Home to Everton.
Yeah, so without Trippier, without Pope, without Lascelles, without Botman,
Yeah,
without
Botman's out for the
Livramento,
season, isn't he? Yeah.
without Livramento, without Tunali, who's just been charged again. Fucking
Of
hell,
course
we
he
need to
has.
stop betting.
Just
Um,
delete fucking William Hill off your phone already.
yeah, without Almiron, without Callum Wilson.
They're fucked, mate. They're fucked. That's the brutally honest perspective of it. They are fucked.
Oh, it's mental. I think Joel Linton's still out as well.
He's been out for quite a while now as well.
Yeah, like mental. And like I said, so and then tomorrow as well, they won't have Gordon because he was sent off.
Yep.
That's it. Fucking Fabian Schär was grabbing his hamstring. But at this point, Eddie Howe's just got to be saying, give him injections and get him through. Like he can't not play.
Yeah, I know. Proper FM campaign, this one.
Yeah, like. But it is. Yeah, you have got a feel from like, and though they're not. Like, when you're naming those players, it's not like you're naming like a back. Most of them are like backup players. But you can maybe say, Livramento's. He's a kind of squad player. Like, all right, fair enough. But look at the rest of them. Like Trippier, Almiron, Callum Wilson, Joel Linton. All these boys would be in the team.
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at the sub bench from the West Ham game on the weekend. Is that Miley injured now as well? Because he didn't feature at all. So again, if he's out, that's going to be another crisis. But looking at the bench there, and their names that you really didn't think they'd still be on the books there: Paul Dummett, Matt Ritchie. it's pretty horrendous. And then they got a few players there. Obviously, Harvey Barnes, who came on and scored 2 goals within 7 minutes. But then they've got youngsters like Elliot Anderson there, Joe White.
Elliot Anderson was good when he come on.
Anderson looks like a real good player, actually. I like that Elliot Anderson. And Lewis Hall, who I think they've got on loan from Chelsea, but have a view to a permanent deal with him. Versatile defender and can play in midfield.
He did come on, I think.
Lewis Hall came on for Emil Kraft.
Yeah, so he come on, I think, for like Lascelles and then got subbed off.
Yeah.
Peak. Tough times.
Yeah, Joe Willock went off in the 57th minute. But yeah, they're screwed, mate. They are honestly screwed. And
Did he go off injured?
I think he did. I mean, he went off in like the 57th minute. So I don't know if that's that is probably because that Eddie Howe had to completely reshape the side, and that basically involved Willock going off.
So I remember, like I said, I turned the game on, and this guy, not Willock, picked the ball up. I didn't even. I'm trying to rack my brain as to who the fuck it was. And he gets the shot, and they said Joe Willock. And Joe Willock.
Joe Willock.
Thought you were dead. Apparently not.
No, he's still going. Still going.
Still there. Fair play.
So yeah. But I'd tell you the biggest disappointment from this weekend was definitely the big crunch match Sunday evening between Man City and Arsenal. True 0-0. There's not a lot to really cover over it.
Fucking damp squid, wasn't it? Jesus Christ.
Absolutely.
Piss poor. Yeah, I think we chatted off air a little bit, but I'm struggling to remember a meaningful save.
There really wasn't.
And the only time that there was a real break where you thought this is a big moment is when Trossard was in and he could have laid it across to Martinelli, and he just decided not to. So
no, they honestly could have played that. They could have played that game with Ruben Diaz and William Saliba as rush goalies.
yeah, I think the only big chance that I can really remember thinking, "Oh fuck, I should have scored," was Nathan Ake's header that he comes
Oh
off
yeah,
the top.
yeah, yeah. That was a good opportunity.
But apart from that, I can't really think of another moment where I thought, God, you should have done better there. Just yeah, it was played in a really strange manner.
Yeah, no, it felt like both teams feared to go at one another, and ultimately just became a huge stalemate. And well, ultimately, it's given Liverpool a little bit of daylight at the top of the table. I mean, I know the gap is only 2 points between them and Arsenal, but City are 3 points behind. They've got that. I think everyone around them has got a game in hand over Villa, who are fourth. So
Yeah, yeah. Liverpool obviously got the business done, which maybe added a little extra layer of tension to the game, and that can maybe explain as to why it was played the way it was, because they both knew that they couldn't really afford to lose it, and I think that was in their minds. Neither side really wanted to lose it.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, like you said, ultimately Liverpool were the big winners. I think they even said it on Sky Sports that the team that really won today was Liverpool. And it's all in their hands. You're about to go. Well, we're in April as we talk now, and it's in their own hands. So can they do it? Can they send Klopp off with his second league title? But they've got a big game coming up this week as well, and with obviously Liverpool United, and United will be absolutely desperate to fuck their title chances up. I think Liverpool will go there and I think absolutely thump them. I think that they will have
that's a real possibility.
a real chip on their shoulder about the FA Cup, and I think Liverpool will go there and thump United 4-1. Like, that kind of level of really exacting revenge. So yeah, um, but yeah, huge games, and that'll be the way that it's built up now. That every game is like a cup final for them.
Absolutely, yeah. And then if we're talking about life after Klopp, one individual who certainly won't be going to Anfield anytime soon was Xabi Alonso after he announced that he was staying at Leverkusen for another year.
That's just stupid.
So
His stock will never be higher at Bayer Leverkusen than it will be at the end of the season. Because what, then are 13 points clear
13 clear at the
with
top.
7 to go.
Yep.
So barring a monumental collapse of epic proportions, that's over and done with. They're
Yeah.
they're gonna win the Bundesliga for the first time in their history. Xabi Alonso is going to have masterminded Bayer Leverkusen's first ever Bundesliga title. I mean, to not leave then is, yeah, I'm sort of speechless. I can't really believe that he's he's decided to rule himself out. But we've seen it in the past where maybe managers are just sick and tired of the questions that they're asking in April that have an impact on June, back end of May, June, and he's ruling himself out in April, whether or not that really is him saying I don't want to go to Liverpool, or he just doesn't want the questions as Bayer Leverkusen embark on the biggest moment in their history, and he doesn't want anything to overshadow it. Who knows?
Yeah, no, like you said, it could potentially be the case where he's set his focus on for the remainder of the season. Even perhaps be a trick in terms of that he's going to increase his demand from clubs that want him, that are interested. So, but I don't know. But he seemed pretty keen and settled on the idea of staying at Leverkusen for one more season, whether he wanted to, because he has. I mean, like you said, he's masterclassed his way with Leverkusen this season. He's got together a fantastic squad. Has completely ran away with them over the likes of Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund and Leipzig.
But
And I don't know
what's
if he's even
what's going to
setting.
happen in the summer? Bayern Munich are just going to pick that team apart because
That's usually what happens.
yeah,
Yeah.
because that's exactly what they did with Borussia Dortmund. When Borussia Dortmund had Royce, Lewandowski, Hummels, they just thought that's a good team. We like Lewandowski.
That,
Mario Götze, we like you.
and
Matt
honestly,
Hummels, we like you.
it's gonna happen. Like Victor Boniface, come on down. Jeremy
Jeremy Frimpong.
Frimpong, come on down.
Yeah, that's all they're going to do. They're just going to pick apart some real
Yeah, no, of course they will.
key aspects of that team,
Yeah.
and they're not going to say no, are
Well,
they?
again, this is the thing? Like, if this is gonna be like a rude awakening for Xabi Alonso, is he gonna change his mind come the summer?
There's no way that Leverkusen are going to be able to reject 80 million for Frimpong or someone like. They're not going to be able to do it.
No.
So you know, Bayern Munich, sorry, are just going to stretch their superpower muscles, take some of the best performing Bundesliga players that have been in the Leverkusen team. They're just going to buy them, whether or not they make a massive impact at the team, who knows? But they're more than happy to swallow that player up so that he doesn't perform at
Yeah.
another club.
Well, but then also take into consideration if I mean I know they said that Thomas Tuchel was leaving at the end of the summer because hypothetically, if he was staying on at Bayern Munich past this summer, they'd probably be buying the likes of Harry Winks or someone like that because I'd never understood that strategy that he tried to really impose in January, bringing in the likes of Eric Dyer. And honest, like, I think that surely was the nail in the coffin for Tuchel at Bayern. Not the fact that they're sitting 12, 13 points behind Bayer Leverkusen, but the fact they fucking gone and bought Eric Dyer.
Yes.
Because he's mates with Harry Kane.
It's not a good sign.
No, it really isn't.
And look, Munich haven't. They haven't had this great ability to stretch outside of German football and secure really, really good names. I mean, obviously they brought Harry Kane, but Harry Kane's a well-known name. But
Yeah.
when they stretch outside of Germany and they're not signing the likes of Goretzka or that they're not pinching the Hummels and the Gertzes and they go and they say to PSG like Chuba Moteng looks a player. So there's arguments there. You can say Leroy Sané, but I don't really think he's lit it up in the division.
I think he had a good start, but he's again died down very quickly. I think it's the same with like Kingsley Coman as well.
Yeah.
Who was probably the closest thing that they have when reaching outside their normal scouting pool and going elsewhere to bring in players. And again, like at the start, looked really good, but again, don't hear his name mentioned at all throughout the season. And then they have like Serge Gnabry, who they managed to get a complete resurrection out of after he couldn't cut the grade at West Brom once upon a time.
Yeah. So they're not formidable in that asset, but they're prolific in Germany, and that's because they swallow up all of that talent, and I'm sure that they will swallow up a good chunk of Bayer Leverkusen's first 11. But at the same time, what a fantastic achievement, Bayer Leverkusen to win their first ever Bundesliga, phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely, completely historical, and like I said, if they somehow manage to fend off the cherry pickers of the Bundesliga, just maybe Alonso will want to build on what he's managed to create there and possibly make them a formidable contender in Europe.
I mean, even if the problem that Leverkusen have is even if they fend off Munich, you're talking about a team that over a 38 game or 36 game, whatever it is in the Bundesliga season, has beaten Bayern Munich. They're going to be attracting interest from everywhere.
Yeah.
Premier League, La Liga, PSG, all the major European stables are going to be going, fucking hell, they're a team. Yeah. And, digging down and looking at, who's performed well, and who's taken them to that level, and yeah, so that that they're going to have a lot of hands trying to come in and pick up a lot of players. So yeah, look, in a perfect world, they stay together and they kick on, and obviously they'll be in the Champions League, and you'd expect them to be quite a force in that because they're the champions of Germany.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do worry that they will unfortunately be picked apart.
Yeah, well, that'd be a shame to see. But it's nice to have a nice little segment now in the Bundesliga. We'll give that a little plug.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's quite a nice change for for once. But only mainly because the Premier League mostly wasn't very exciting, so it was nice to.
And at least their big game, there was 2 goals. At least Dortmund scored twice against Bayern Munich.
Exactly.
So,
Well, I tell you what. Before we sign off tonight, I've got some breaking news that have taken place in the Championship during this recording. Jeremy Sarmiento has scored a 97th minute winner for Ipswich to win the game 3-2 and put them, as things stand, top of the Championship. But Leeds have broken the deadlock at Ellen Road through Sam Byram. Sam Byram, still knocking about. After 11 minutes, has put Leeds 1-0 up against Hull.
It's getting
tasty.
Could come down to the last day. It could be
Actually good.
Tasty finish to the Championship.
Absolutely.
But, yeah, big moments for Ipswich.
Some big upcoming weeks to look forward to indeed. But look, Mayhem, pleasure as always. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. Good to have you back. Looking forward to it next week.
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of, yeah. Oh, yes, of course. Yes, of course. Ladies and gents, thank you very much for tuning in. If you are new to the Football Booth podcast, you can check us out on all audio platforms, including Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Audible. If you'd like to check out the live recordings, head on over to YouTube at the channel, The Football Booth. Make sure to like, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell for notifications. And until next time, ladies and gents, I bid you all good night and a star.